Hi, Eric. I like your background.
Oh, I do too. That was probably my favorite part of the movie. I'm here with Jennifer Takaki, writer, producer of Photographic Justice, the Corky Lee Story. I watched an interview with you for the Doc NYC. Anyone listening can find it on YouTube, Coma, a Chinatown Organization for Media. It was a really good interview. And you started that saying that this documentary kind of started as a sort of a YouTube video that got out of hand and became what it is.
Yeah, you
Um,
can say that.
what was the turning point that turned it from, oh, I'm just going to do this cool thing for YouTube to now we're in a New York City like film festival type stuff?
Yeah, I did finish the 5 minute piece and I did put it into a film festival. I think that and I took it out of the film festival because I felt like it wasn't a complete story. I felt like it didn't do justice to his story, and I wanted to explore it more, so I just kept shooting.
And how do you do a documentary with someone like Corky Lee? Because from all accounts, this guy was just amazing. Like, just not, how he stepped up as a photographer journalist, but like everyone that talks about him loves this guy. And you see this guy is just like, usually you have someone, there's got to be conflict somewhere, right? You got to have like, oh, he had a dark past with drugs or he, beat his wife or something, but there's like none of that here with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Corky could be stubborn sometimes, but he was a solid good guy. I mean, I really loved him. I think why Corky was so beloved is because he really genuinely cared about the history of everyone, and not just like the AAPI history, particularly the AAPI history, but he just knew history generally, so he could talk to anyone about anything. And it was a very charming quality that he had where he just really cared about people. And so I think that when you're like that, it's really kind of hard to deny your likability factor when you really just care. Like he genuinely cared. And also what's interesting about him, it's because he was like built like not just to be a really great photographer because he was always out there, he was always like looking for a story, he was always ready to shoot, but he also had a really great personality. And then on top of that, he was also able to organize people. So he wasn't, like that photo behind you. It wasn't like Corky just shows up and like takes the photo, right? Corky instigated that whole thing. Like he was working with people and community organizations in Utah and in New York to make that happen, helping organize the buses to get people on the buses. Like, Corky's hand isn't just on the button to shoot. He really is. And he started out as a community organizer, and I think that just kind of helped his whole ability to galvanize and organize people for really big moments that he cared about.
Yeah.
He felt important.
Actually, speaking of the picture behind me, for those can't, it's a recreation of the photo that you show at the beginning of the documentary. It's just a wonderful book. And like, when was this picture taken, and at what point of the process did this make it into the film? Because I like as a book, and it was really fantastic.
So that photo was taken in 2014. So this is again testament to Corky. That photo was taken in 2014. It was for the 145th anniversary of the 1869 recreation of the, Transcontinental Railroad. But he went every year after that up to 2019, which would have been the 150th anniversary. Right. So Corky didn't just show up and do it once for a photo. He made a moment into a movement. And that is a really good example of that. Had he like had 2020 and the pandemic happened, I'm not sure if he would have gone, but I'm sure he would have. Like, I think he would have just kept going because his whole idea was for people just to keep showing up and being part of that history. And I think that he really set a good precedent for that.
In the interview I mentioned earlier, you mentioned that Corky had since passed away early 2021, but you did mention that he did get to see some of the documentary before that. What was that like? Like, how did he respond to that? And what was that like for you just working on this for so long, just seeing his response?
So Corky never had I never wanted to allow him to have the critique, like to be able to critique it in a way like I don't want to see myself get it, losing my job or something. Like he didn't
Yeah.
have that kind of power. I would never want to like, embarrass him or say something inaccurate. I wanted to show him the progress so that he could see that, what he was doing was mattered and that, we were making progress on the film. So he saw different rough cuts through this time period, but one of the ones that we had where it was like he didn't like it was completely finished-ish, like it was a rough cut. And it was held at this place with a lot of different people in the community. Linda Hattendorf was my editor, and she, by the way, is just an incredible person, really the heart and soul of the film, in my opinion, outside of Corky. But really, she understood what my major goals were with the film, and she executed it to perfection. But one of the difficult parts of that was when we showed it in the community screening was to get the balance of his personal life and his photography. So Corky thought it was too much personal information, and independent who you talk to, like people had no idea who Corky was. Like they really didn't know, the community didn't know who Corky was. No one really asked him. He didn't really talk about it. So, people wanted more of his personal life. Like the people who
Yeah.
were in the community were like, more, more, more. And Corky was like, I don't want, this to be too much about me. And so really it was that really kind of perfect balance that we kind of like strove for. And in the end, the end just kept changing. The story behind like that pre-creation scene was meant to be the end of the film. And then, once Corky passed, that of course changed.
It is the Corky Lee story. So I don't think more Corky Lee is a bad thing by any stretch.
I agree. I agree.
But also in the documentary, it shows a bit where he has it's like a storage area where he puts all his photographs. Where is that now? Like who controls that, or is that just like gone?
So Corky has one living sibling. Out of the family, that family scene that you saw, there's one brother who's alive and his name is John Lee. He wasn't in the family scene. He was like interviewed separately. But now he heads the estate. So actually, they came out with a book called Corky Lee's Asian America. They came out with that book like a couple of days ago. So that's pretty cool. So they ended up being able to publish his photos after all.
Yet another part of the I'm just going to give away the whole documentary. It's so good. But another part where they have Corky Lee like art showings of his photographs, and he'll pick certain ones to tell a certain story for that showing. Is that something that still goes on? And then like who curates those kind of showings, if that even happens anymore?
That will never happen. I mean, they
Uh,
will have exhibits and
yeah.
curations of work, but to have Corky there and talk about the photos, that's just something that you had to experience. I mean, he had so many details in the photos. Like he could tell you why he took the photo. Like, there's this photo of this woman on a street and she was homeless, and there was a billboard sign for a bank across the street. Like he really in his head has so many, many stories behind why he does what he does, and that kind of unfortunately is lost with him. But the reason that he took these photos was not so that people represented what he thought the photo should say. He really did it so that when people write books or stories or need, some sort of a visual aspect of whatever they're doing to their art, that Corky's photography could support that.
It's weird because he's like such a great journalist with his photography, but he's such a great artist too. Like just the way the whole part where he talks about like here's this picture, how this relates to this one, and how it relates to this one, and there's definitely an art to it that I don't think you normally find within journalism.
Yeah, that's true. Like he will take into consideration the color. Like, I remember one photograph he had, he was taking into consideration like the color and the design of the tablecloth as juxtaposition to something else. And also speaking of juxtaposition, a lot of his photos he had a American flag with Asian Americans doing something, or something New York and Asian Americans doing something. That was another kind of like very quirky kind of photo that he liked to play with.
Yeah. Well, not sure how much time we have. I think we're behind the gun at the start of this, but we do have a what's in the box segment. And in this box, we have a bunch of movies. We pull one out each week and watch it for the following week. And we have people put movies into the box. These are a movie that's either personal to you or just like a really good movie that no one talks about. What's a movie you would like to put in the box?
Oh, I would like to put in my friend's movie on the Ainu because I feel like she's an incredible filmmaker, and it's definitely a film that should be seen. And yeah, I would like to put her film in the box.
And
So how do I put it in the box? Her
oh,
name is Naomi.
you just tell me and we write it down and put it in there. But what's it called now?
Let me get the whole name of it. It's called the Ainu Indigenous People of Japan.
Okay.
And her name is Naomi Mitsuguchi.
All right.
But it's a really beautiful film, very well done, and it definitely um, should be seen and heard as far and wide as possible. So thank you for that opportunity.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a personal one, and I dig it. But Photographic Justice, the Corky Lee story, will be released theatrically in New York, DC TV's Firehouse Cinema on April 19th, and Lemley, Glendale, and Los Angeles on April 26th, with a regional expansion to follow. Hopefully, it'll be. Oh, go ahead.
Just so you know, like our premiere though is at the Lemley Royal on the 25th.
On the 25th.
Yeah.
All
And our
right.
goal is to sell out the Lemley. So please help with that. Spread the word.
There you go. There you go, you cowards. Sell it out of the
Thank you, Eric. We really appreciate you interviewing us. Me.
Yeah, yeah, Jennifer, it was a really great doc, and thanks for joining me, and thanks for keeping Corky. Thanks for bringing Corky in my life because I had no idea who he was, and so this was a really great doc to watch.
Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Yeah, he really is I think he's a guy that will I always felt like he would outlive me, like and everyone else. Like literally, I thought he would live it. But when he died, I truly know that his story will be passed for generations to come. So that's good.